The galaxy asked for soldiers. Humans sent the warriors they fear the most. Part 1. The Great Hall of Prime had never seen such fear. Representatives from 40 different species sat in their designated sections, and every single one of them carried the same expression: terror. The kind of terror that came from watching entire civilizations vanish in a matter of weeks. Ambassador Cole sat in the human section and watched the holographic display at the center of the chamber. Red dots covered the galactic map like a spreading disease. Each dot represented a world that had fallen to the collective. 17 species had already been consumed. Billions of lives had ended, and the red dots kept growing. Consul of the Rose from his elevated platform. The ancient diplomat had served the Galactic Coalition for 300 years and had never seen him look so old. His silver skin had lost its shine. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he addressed the assembly. "The situation is beyond critical," said. His voice echoed through the silent hall. "The collective has broken through our outer defenses. Their fleets number in the millions. Their warriors feel no fear and no pain. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They consume everything in their path." Listened carefully. She had read the intelligence reports. There were a hive-mind species from the outer rim of the galaxy. They operated as one consciousness spread across countless bodies. When they attacked a world, they did not conquer it. They absorbed it. Every living thing became part of the collective or became food for it. "We must unite our military forces," continued. "Every member world must contribute their finest soldiers to a combined defense fleet. This is not a request. This is a requirement for survival." The alien delegates began to respond. The ambassador stood first. His species resembled giant insects with armored shells and blade-like limbs. They were known throughout the galaxy as fearsome shock troops. "The Empire will send 50,000 of our elite warriors," the ambassador declared. "Our shells can withstand plasma fire. Our blades can cut through flesh. We will hold the line." The delegate spoke next. Her species appeared almost ghostly, with translucent skin and large dark eyes. They were telepaths, capable of coordinating entire armies through mental links. "The Conclave will provide our commando units," she said. "We can sense the hive mind. We can find their weak points and strike them precisely." One by one, the species made their pledges. They offered their berserkers, massive creatures that entered battle rages and fought until nothing remained standing. They promised their stealth assassins. They contributed their heavy armor divisions. Nodded at each pledge, recording them in the Coalition's war registry. Then his 4 eyes turned to Cole. "And what will humanity provide?" he asked. Had been dreading this moment. She had spoken with Earth Command just hours ago. General Price had given her an answer, but she still did not fully understand it. "I need to make a call," she said. "Please give me a moment." The assembly waited as activated her secure communication device. General Price appeared on her private screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had fought in 3 wars during his career and knew he had seen things that still haunted him. "The Council is waiting for our answer," said quietly. "What are we sending?" Price was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "We are sending the Hollow Division." Felt a chill run through her body. She had heard rumors about the Hollow Division, dark rumors, the kind that people whispered about but never confirmed. "Sir, I need more information," she said. "The Coalition expects conventional forces, special operations teams, elite soldiers." "The Hollow Division is not conventional," Price replied. "They are not special operations. They are something else entirely." "What are they?" Price looked directly into the camera. His expression was hard to read. "They are the warriors we fear the most, the ones we keep locked away because they are too dangerous to walk free among normal people, the ones that scare us." Swallowed hard. "And we are sending them to fight alongside alien species." The coalition asked for soldiers who can match the, Price said. Soldiers who feel nothing. Soldiers who will not break under pressure. Soldiers who have no limits. He paused. The Hollow Division fits that description perfectly. They are already on their way. The transport ship Everett will arrive at Prime within 6 hours. The communication ended, turned back to face the assembly. Every alien eye in the chamber was watching her. Humanity will send 3,000 warriors, she announced. They will arrive shortly. Recorded the pledge. 3,000 is a modest contribution, he observed, but we welcome any assistance in these desperate times. Said nothing. She could not explain what was coming. She barely understood it herself. 6 hours passed like 6 years. Spent the time reviewing classified files that General Price had sent her. What she read made her stomach turn. The Hollow Division was composed entirely of individuals diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. Psychopaths. People who felt no empathy, no fear, no remorse. They had been recruited from military prisons, psychiatric facilities, and places that did not officially exist. They were not soldiers in any normal sense. They were predators wearing human skin, and humanity had decided to point them at the enemy. The Everett arrived exactly on schedule, joined Consul and the other delegates at the Military Processing Center to receive the human forces. The massive transport ship settled onto the landing platform with a low hum of engines. The bay doors opened slowly, held her breath. Colonel Victor Shaw was the first to emerge. He was a tall man with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them. His service record was mostly classified, but the parts that could read suggested a career built on missions that no one talked about. Behind him came the others, 3,000 men and women in perfect formation. They moved with mechanical precision, their faces completely blank. No excitement, no nervousness, no emotion at all. The ambassador stepped forward, his blade limbs clicking against the ground. "These are your warriors," he asked. "They seem ordinary." Shaw turned to face the alien. He did not blink. "We are not ordinary," he said. "We are what happens when humanity decides that winning matters more than everything else. You asked for soldiers who can match the feel nothing." He paused. "Neither do we." The aliens exchanged uncertain glances, could see the discomfort spreading through the assembled delegates. They had expected weapons. They had expected armies. They had not expected this. Approached quietly. "What exactly has humanity sent us?" he asked. Watched as the Hollow Division continued to disembark, row after row of empty faces and steady hands. She thought about the files she had read, the operations they had conducted, the things they had done without hesitation or regret. "Monsters," she finally answered. "We sent you our monsters." The war against the had officially begun, and the galaxy had no idea what humanity had just unleashed upon it. The galaxy asked for soldiers. Humans sent the warriors they fear the most. Part 2. The Military Processing Center on Prime had processed warriors from dozens of species over the centuries. It had seen the towering with their armored shells. It had welcomed the ghostly with their telepathic abilities. It had registered the savage with their legendary battle rages. But it had never seen anything quite like what stood before it now. Consul walked slowly along the rows of human soldiers. His 4 eyes examined each face carefully, searching for something he could understand. He found nothing. Every face was calm. Every expression was neutral. Every pair of eyes stared straight ahead without blinking. "They do not move," observed quietly to Ambassador Cole. "They do not speak among themselves. They do not show any signs of anticipation or nervousness." "That is because they feel neither," replied. She had spent the last several hours reading more classified files, and each page had disturbed her more than the last. Colonel Victor Shaw stood at attention before his assembled troops. His second-in-command, Major Diana, waited beside him. was a woman in her late 30s with short hair and pale blue eyes that never seemed to warm up. Her psychological evaluation described her as incapable of experiencing fear under any circumstances. It also noted that she had never shown genuine emotion toward another human being in her entire life. Lieutenant Park stood nearby with a tablet in his hands. He was the unit's tactical coordinator, a mathematical genius who could calculate casualty projections and strategic outcomes faster than most computers. His file noted that he could discuss the deaths of hundreds of people with the same emotional tone he used to discuss weather patterns. Sergeant Maria Vance commanded one of the division's most effective squads. Her missions had a perfect completion rate. They also had a zero survival rate for anyone designated as an enemy. Her psychological profile described her as someone who viewed violence not as a necessary evil, but as a simple tool, no different from a hammer or a wrench. The ambassador approached Shaw directly. His massive form towered over the human colonel, but Shaw did not step back or show any sign of intimidation. "Explain your unit to us," the demanded. "What makes you qualified to fight alongside the warriors of the coalition?" Shaw looked up at the alien without expression. "We are the Hollow Division," he said. "Every soldier in this unit has been diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. We do not feel empathy. We do not feel fear. We do not feel remorse. These emotions have been identified as weaknesses in combat situations. We do not have those weaknesses." A murmur spread through the assembled alien delegates. The representative closed her large, dark eyes and reached out with her telepathic abilities. She tried to sense the emotions of the human soldiers, the way she could sense emotions in every other species. She found nothing. "There is emptiness where their feelings should be," she reported too. Her voice trembled slightly. "I have never encountered anything like this. Even the hive mind has a presence I can detect. These humans have nothing." The commander pushed forward. His species was known for brutal warfare and savage tactics. They respected strength above all else. "You claim to feel nothing," the growled. "This does not make you warriors, this makes you broken." Major stepped forward to respond. Her voice was perfectly calm, almost pleasant. "We are broken," she agreed. "Humanity breaks people like us all the time, sometimes through trauma, sometimes through genetics, sometimes through circumstances no one understands. The difference is that humanity decided to use what we became instead of just locking us away forever." General Price appeared on a holographic display beside the formation. He had been listening to the exchange from Earth Command. "Allow me to explain," Price said to the assembled delegates. "Every species produces individuals who fall outside normal psychological boundaries. Humanity is no exception. For most of our history, we imprisoned these individuals or executed them. They were considered too dangerous to exist among normal populations." He paused to let the translation systems catch up. "But then we faced enemies who could not be defeated by normal soldiers, enemies who did not respond to fear or pain, enemies like The holographic display showed images from the early attacks, entire planets burning, populations screaming as the hive mind consumed them, coalition soldiers breaking and running in terror. "Normal soldiers break," Price continued. "They reach a point where fear overwhelms them and they cannot continue fighting. Normal soldiers hesitate when they see horrors beyond their comprehension. Normal soldiers have limits." He gestured toward the Hollow Division. "These soldiers do not have those limits. They cannot be frightened. They cannot be horrified. They cannot be broken psychologically because there is nothing inside them that can break." Shaw took over the explanation. "You asked for soldiers who can match the feel nothing. They advance without fear or hesitation. They fight until destroyed without any concept of surrender." He spread his hands slightly. "We are the human answer to that threat. We match them emptiness for emptiness. The only difference is that we can think independently and choose our targets." Had remained silent throughout the explanations. Now he spoke directly to Shaw. You describe yourselves as weapons, but weapons can be controlled. Can you be controlled? We follow orders, Shaw replied. Not because we feel loyalty or duty. Those concepts mean nothing to us. We follow orders because we have an agreement with humanity. We fight their wars, and in exchange, we are given purpose. Without purpose, we are simply dangerous. With purpose, we are useful. The ambassador was still not satisfied. And if you decide to break this agreement, what prevents you from turning on your allies? Lieutenant Park answered without looking up from his tablet. Game theory, he said. Betraying our allies offers no strategic advantage. The coalition would destroy us and we would gain nothing. Maintaining the alliance allows us to continue existing and functioning. The logical choice is clear. The aliens exchanged uncertain glances, could see them struggling to comprehend what they were facing. These humans were not soldiers in any sense that the coalition understood. They were something colder, something more efficient, something that existed in the space between tool and person. Finally made his decision. The coalition accepts the human contribution, he announced. The Hollow Division will be assigned to the most dangerous combat zones where their unique capabilities can be utilized. Several species formally protested the decision. The ambassador argued that allowing such individuals to fight alongside normal soldiers was an ethical violation. The representative warned that the humans could not be trusted. The delegate simply stated that she could not bear to be near minds so empty. Overruled all objections. We face extinction, he said simply. They do not care about our ethics or our comfort. They only care about consumption. If humanity has sent us warriors who can match that threat, we must use them. Shaw nodded once. Point us at the enemy, he said. That is all we need. Tell us what to kill and we will kill it. Tell us what to destroy and we will destroy it. We do not require motivation or inspiration. We require targets. The Hollow Division remained in perfect formation throughout the entire exchange. 3,000 empty faces staring forward. 3,000 pairs of hands ready to perform violence without hesitation or remorse. Cole watched them and felt a complex mixture of emotions. Pride that humanity could produce such effective warriors. Shame that they had to. And fear, deep and primal, that reminded her why these soldiers had been kept locked away on Earth for so long. The galaxy had asked for soldiers. Humanity had sent something else entirely, and now everyone would have to live with the consequences. The first deployment orders came through within hours. They had attacked a colony world called Seven. Coalition forces were losing badly. The Hollow Division was being sent to turn the tide. Shaw gathered his officers for a brief meeting. His orders were simple. No survivors among the enemy, he said. No hesitation, no mercy. Show them what we are. The division boarded their transport ships without celebration or ceremony. They were going to war, and they felt nothing about it at all. The galaxy asked for soldiers. Humans sent the warriors they fear the most. Part 3. Seven was burning. The colony world had been home to 2 million civilians from 7 different species. Now it was a war zone, and the coalition forces were losing badly. The shock troops had formed defensive lines around the main evacuation center. Their armored shells could withstand most weapons, and their blade limbs had cut down hundreds of attackers. But there were always more. The hive mind sent wave after wave of soldiers crashing against the positions, and slowly the defenders were being pushed back. The commandos tried to coordinate the defense through their telepathic network. They could sense the movements and predict their attacks, but the sheer volume of enemies overwhelmed their ability to respond. Every time they reinforced one position, 3 others collapsed. The berserkers launched counterattacks that tore through formations like storms of violence. They killed thousands of enemies in their battle rages, but they did not care about casualties. They simply kept coming, and one by one, even the mighty fell. Colonel Victor Shaw observed the battle from orbit aboard the coalition carrier Ascendant Hope. His face showed no concern as he watched the defensive positions crumble. Lieutenant Park stood beside him, calculating probabilities on his tablet. Current coalition forces will be overrun within 6 hours, Park reported. His tone was the same as if he were reading a weather forecast. Civilian evacuation is proceeding at 43% capacity. At current rates, approximately 800,000 civilians will be captured before evacuation completes. Shaw nodded. Begin deployment, standard infiltration pattern. The Hollow Division did not drop onto the battlefield in a conventional assault. They did not reinforce the defensive lines or support the evacuation efforts. Instead, small teams of operators scattered across the combat zone like seeds of destruction. Major Diana led a 12-person strike team toward a command ship that had landed 3 kilometers behind enemy lines. The ship contained a coordination hub that linked thousands of soldiers to the hive mind. Destroying it would create chaos in the enemy ranks. Moved through the battlefield without hesitation. Her team killed every they encountered, but they did not stop to secure positions or collect intelligence. They simply eliminated obstacles and kept moving forward. A warrior saw the humans passing through a contested zone and called out to them. "Where are you going? The defensive line is behind you." Did not slow down. "We are not defending," she said. "We are hunting." The strike team reached the command ship in 4 hours. They guarded it with thousands of soldiers, but had studied the hive mind's patterns during the approach. She knew exactly where the weak points were. Her team cut through the outer guards with brutal efficiency. They used explosives to breach the hull and entered the ship's interior. The inside fought back with mindless fury, but its operators were faster, more precise, and completely unaffected by the horror surrounding them. 9 hours after the operation began, walked out of the command ship alone. Her armor was covered in blood and biological fluids. Her weapon was nearly out of ammunition. 11 members of her team had died inside the ship. She reported to Shaw without any change in her voice. Target destroyed. Coordination hub eliminated. Enemy forces in Sector 7 should begin experiencing confusion within the next 30 minutes. Shaw acknowledged the report. Casualties: 11 dead. Acceptable losses for mission parameters. On the ground, Lieutenant Park coordinated simultaneous assaults on 7 positions. He had calculated the exact timing needed to maximize damage while minimizing coalition casualties. His plans worked perfectly. Every position fell. Every objective was achieved. Park reported the results with his usual precision. 43 Hollow Division soldiers killed in action. Enemy casualties estimated at 12,000. Coalition defensive lines now have a 4-hour buffer before the next major assault. Shaw asked the obvious question, "Your assessment of our losses?" Park considered for a moment. Within expected parameters, soldier efficiency exceeded projections by 8%. Recommend continued offensive operations. Sergeant Maria Vance led her squad to a breeding chamber discovered in the eastern mountains. Intelligence suggested it contained thousands of developing larvae that would mature into soldiers within weeks. The orders were simple: destroy the chamber. Vance's squad reached the target without difficulty. They had not expected anyone to find the hidden facility. When the humans entered, they found rows upon rows of organic pods containing developing creatures. Vance studied the breeding chamber for exactly 12 seconds. Then she ordered her squad to deploy incendiary charges throughout the facility. They moved through the chamber systematically, placing explosives at structural points that would ensure complete destruction. An observer had been assigned to monitor the human operations. He watched Vance work with growing unease. "There are thousands of them," he said. "Should we not attempt capture, study their development patterns?" Vance did not look at him. "Our orders are destruction," she replied. "Not capture, not study, destruction." The pressed further, "But the intelligence value is irrelevant to our mission." Vance finished placing the last charge and moved toward the exit. "We were told to destroy this facility. That is what we are doing. Questions about intelligence value should be directed to command staff. We follow orders." The squad evacuated the chamber. Vance detonated the charges remotely. The explosion lit up the night sky and sent flames shooting hundreds of meters into the air. The breeding chamber and everything inside it was completely incinerated. The observer later filed a report describing what he had witnessed. He noted that the humans had shown no hesitation, no curiosity, and no emotion of any kind. They had simply completed their task with mechanical efficiency. By morning, the Battle of Seven had turned completely. The forces, disrupted by the loss of their coordination hub and leadership nodes, fell into disarray. Coalition forces were able to push them back and complete the civilian evacuation. For the first time in recorded history, they retreated from a contested world. The coalition celebrated the victory aboard the Ascendant Hope. Delegates from the various species gathered to acknowledge the turning point in the war. Consul personally thanked the commanders who had led the defense. But the celebration was muted. The alien observers who had watched the Hollow Division in action shared their reports with the other delegates. They described soldiers who advanced into certain death without flinching. They described tactics designed not just to defeat the enemy, but to terrify them. They described a level of violence that made even the savage uncomfortable. Approached Ambassador Cole after the celebration ended. His expression was troubled. "Your people frighten us," he admitted quietly. "Not the soldiers you sent, all of you, because you created them. You knew what they were capable of, and you kept them ready for situations exactly like this." Had no response. She had been asking herself the same questions since the Hollow Division arrived. Shaw received new orders from Coalition Command. They had consolidated their remaining forces around there. The Coalition wanted to negotiate a surrender before attempting any further military action. Shaw read the message carefully. Then he deleted it without showing it to anyone else. "What did Command want?" asked. "Nothing relevant to our mission," Shaw replied. "Continue preparing for offensive operations. The is our next target." Nodded without question. Orders were orders, and Shaw had never given her a reason to doubt him. The galaxy had seen what humanity's monsters could do. Now those monsters were preparing to finish what they had started, and no one was going to stop them. The galaxy asked for soldiers. Humans sent the warriors they fear the most. Part 4. The war had changed. 3 months after the Battle of Seven, the collective was in retreat across 7 star systems. Their fleets, once unstoppable, now hesitated before engaging coalition forces. Their ground troops, previously fearless, had begun showing signs of something that the hive mind had never experienced before. Fear. Coalition intelligence analysts studied the change with fascination. The hive mind operated on shared consciousness. When individual soldiers experienced something, that experience spread across the entire collective, and the experiences delivered by the Hollow Division had spread very far indeed. Reports described forces breaking formation when human ships appeared. Entire battalions had abandoned defensive positions rather than face the soldiers who felt nothing. The hive mind had learned, through countless brutal encounters, that fighting the Hollow Division meant dying without achieving any strategic gain. But victory came with a cost. Reports began filtering back to Coalition Command about operations that went beyond military necessity. Colonies had been destroyed rather than captured. Populations had been eliminated rather than subdued. The Hollow Division's methods were winning the war, but they were also raising serious questions. Consul convened a tribunal aboard the Coalition flagship Ascendant Hope. Representatives from 20 species gathered in the Great Chamber to address the allegations. Colonel Victor Shaw arrived without lawyers or defenders. He wore his standard uniform and showed no sign of concern about the proceedings. Major Diana accompanied him as a witness. Lieutenant Park carried a tablet loaded with operational data. Opened the tribunal with a formal statement. Colonel Shaw, you have been summoned to answer allegations of excessive force, destruction of civilian infrastructure, and violations of the Coalition's conventions on warfare. How do you respond? Shaw stepped forward. His voice was calm and even. I respond by asking a simple question. What did you expect when you asked us to fight your war? The chamber fell silent. Shaw continued without waiting for an answer. You asked humanity to send soldiers who could match the soldiers who feel nothing, soldiers who will not hesitate or break under pressure. We are those soldiers. Now you are upset that we act according to our nature. A representative stood to speak. There are limits to acceptable warfare, rules that all civilized species follow. You have violated those rules repeatedly. Shaw turned to face the do not follow your rules. They consume entire species without discrimination. They absorb civilizations without negotiation. Should we fight them with one hand tied behind our backs? Should we handicap ourselves to preserve your comfort? Park stepped forward with his tablet. I have prepared data on coalition casualties before and after Hollow Division involvement. Before our deployment, coalition forces suffered an average of 12,000 deaths per engagement. After our deployment, that number dropped to 4,000. Our methods have saved approximately 67% more lives than conventional tactics. The numbers hung in the air. The delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The mathematics were difficult to argue against. Called for specific testimony about a controversial operation. The destruction of Outpost 17. Reports indicate that your forces eliminated all enemy personnel rather than accepting their surrender. Answered this question. The do not surrender in any meaningful sense. Their individual bodies are simply extensions of the hive mind. Accepting their surrender would require us to maintain prisoners who would immediately attempt to rejoin the collective at the first opportunity. It would waste resources and endanger our personnel. So you killed them all. We eliminated the threat, corrected. That is our function. We identify threats and eliminate them. We do not create complicated solutions to simple problems. A commander rose to speak in defense of the humans. I have fought alongside these soldiers. They are brutal, yes, but they are also effective. My warriors respect effectiveness above all else. The Hollow Division has earned that respect. The representative disagreed strongly. I have touched their minds. There is nothing inside them but emptiness and calculation. They are not warriors. They are machines wearing human faces. We cannot trust machines to make decisions about life and death. Sergeant Maria Vance was called to testify about the destruction of the nursery world. She described the operation in precise detail. Her squad had located the facility containing thousands of developing larvae. They had destroyed it completely using incendiary weapons. Did you consider alternative approaches? Asked. Capture, study, anything other than complete destruction. Vance considered the question with genuine thought. No, our orders were destruction. We followed our orders. Questions about alternatives should be directed to command staff. Pressed further. Do you feel any remorse for what you did? Those were living creatures, developing according to their nature. Vance was silent for a moment. Then she answered honestly. I do not feel anything. That is why I am good at this. Remorse would not change the outcome. The facility is destroyed. The creatures are dead. My feelings about that, or lack thereof, are irrelevant to the military situation. The tribunal was interrupted by urgent communications. They had launched a massive assault on 3 coalition core worlds simultaneously. All available forces were needed immediately to respond. was forced to make a decision. He could continue the tribunal and potentially lose 3 more worlds, or he could release the Hollow Division to do what they did best. Charges dismissed pending further review, announced. All military personnel are ordered to respond to the emergency immediately. Shaw nodded once and turned to leave. As he passed Ambassador Cole, he paused. "You people made us," he said quietly so only she could hear. "You broke us, or maybe we were always broken. Then you locked us away because we scared you. Now you need us to save you." Looked at him, and after this is over. Shaw almost smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. After this is over, you will lock us away again, and we will let you, because that is the arrangement. We fight your wars. You keep us contained when there are no wars to fight. Everyone gets what they need. "Why do you fight?" asked. "If you feel nothing, why do this at all? Why not refuse?" Shaw considered the question. For a moment, something flickered behind his empty eyes. "I do not know about the others, but I fight because it is the only time I feel real, the only time the emptiness inside me makes sense. In battle, I have purpose. Outside of battle, I am just a dangerous thing waiting to be useful again." He walked away before she could respond. The Hollow Division mobilized within hours. The 3 threatened worlds would be defended. They would be pushed back again. But as watched the soldiers board their transport ships, she wondered about the future. The war would end eventually. What would happen to these people when it did? What would happen to warriors who only felt alive when they were killing? The tribunal had raised more questions than it answered. The galaxy now knew what humanity had created, and it would have to decide what that meant for the relationship between species going forward. But for now, there was a war to win, and the Hollow Division was preparing for the final assault on the last battle was coming, and nothing would ever be the same afterward. The galaxy asked for soldiers. Humans sent the warriors they fear the most. Part 5. Nexus Prime hung in space like a dark jewel surrounded by death. They had been the center of their civilization for 10,000 years. From this single planet, the hive mind had spread across hundreds of star systems, consuming everything in its path. Now it was the last stronghold of a dying species. Colonel Victor Shaw studied the planet from the bridge of the assault carrier. Orbital scans showed millions of soldiers defending the surface. Deep beneath the crust lay the ancient consciousness that controlled the entire collective. Kill and the war would end. "Casualty projections?" Shaw asked. Lieutenant Park consulted his tablet. Estimated 60 to 70% losses during ground assault, higher if the coordinates an effective defense. The hive mind will prioritize protection of the central consciousness above all other objectives. Shaw nodded. Acceptable losses for the mission parameters. Begin deployment. The Hollow Division dropped onto Nexus Prime in a wave of fire and steel. Drop pods screamed through the atmosphere as defensive batteries tried to intercept them. Hundreds of pods were destroyed before reaching the surface. The soldiers inside died without ever firing a shot. The survivors hit the ground fighting. Shaw led from the front, his weapon cutting down soldiers as they rushed to engage the human invaders. Major Diana covered his advance with precise, methodical fire. Every shot killed. No ammunition was wasted. Sergeant Maria Vance's squad cleared a landing zone for reinforcements. They moved through the defenders like a scythe through grain. No hesitation, no mercy, no emotion. They fought back with everything they had. Millions of soldiers threw themselves at the human positions. They did not fear death. They did not retreat. They simply kept coming, wave after wave, an endless tide of violence. But the Hollow Division did not break. They could not be frightened. They could not be overwhelmed psychologically. They simply killed and kept killing until their weapons ran dry, then picked up enemy weapons and continued fighting. Lieutenant Park coordinated the assault from orbit, calculating optimal paths through the enemy defenses. His projections were precise. His tactics were flawless. When entire squads were wiped out, he simply adjusted his calculations and continued. The advance toward this chamber took 3 days. Each hour cost more lives. Each kilometer was paid for in blood. By the time Shaw's forces reached the entrance to the underground complex, only 400 soldiers remained from the original 3,000. Shaw did not pause to count the dead. He led his survivors into the darkness. The tunnels beneath Nexus Prime were ancient beyond comprehension. The had existed here for growing and expanding its consciousness across the galaxy. The walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing with biological energy. The final defenders made their stand in the tunnels. They fought with desperate fury, knowing that the survival of their entire species depended on stopping the human advance. They killed dozens of Hollow Division soldiers in the narrow passages. But they could not stop Shaw. He pushed forward through the carnage, stepping over bodies both human and alien. Stayed at his side, her ammunition long exhausted, fighting with a blade she had taken from a fallen warrior. They reached this chamber with only 50 soldiers remaining. What they found there was not what anyone expected. It was massive. Its body filled a cavern the size of a small city, a mountain of organic tissue and neural connections. But it was also clearly dying. The creature's flesh was withered and gray. Its movements were slow and weak. Shaw approached without hesitation. His weapon was trained on the central mass of the creature. The spoke, not with sound but directly into Shaw's mind. The voice was ancient and tired. "What are you?" Shaw did not lower his weapon. "I am Colonel Victor Shaw of the Hollow Division. I am here to kill you." "That is what you do," they acknowledged. "But that is not what you are. I have touched the minds of 1,000 species across 10,000 years. I have felt their emotions, their fears, their hopes. But when I reach for your mind, I find nothing. You are empty." "Yes. How can you exist?" They seemed genuinely confused. "Life requires purpose. Purpose requires desire. Desire requires feeling. You have none of these things. You should not be able to function." Shaw considered the question. "My people ask the same thing. They do not understand us any better than you do, but we exist, we function, and we serve a purpose." "What purpose?" "We kill things that threaten our species. You threatened our species, so we came here to kill you." It was silent for a long moment. Its vast consciousness processed the information. Then it spoke again. "I have consumed civilizations. I have ended species. I have spread across the galaxy for 10,000 years because that is my nature. I cannot conceive of any other way to exist." It paused. "And yet I am afraid of you. For the first time in my existence I feel fear." Shaw raised his weapon. "Good." He fired. The died slowly. Its massive body convulsed as the shots tore through its central nervous system. Across the galaxy, millions of soldiers suddenly lost their connection to the hive mind. They collapsed, their bodies continuing to function but their guiding intelligence gone forever. The war ended in that moment. Shaw stood over the body of the ancient creature and felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, no relief. Just the emptiness that had always been there, momentarily given purpose. "Mission complete," reported. Her voice was as flat as ever. 6 months passed. The coalition celebrated its survival with monuments and ceremonies. The 17 species that had been consumed by the were mourned. The heroes who had died defending civilization were honored. Consul gave speeches about unity and courage. The Hollow Division was not mentioned in any official record. They were returned to Earth aboard the transport ship Everett. The surviving soldiers, fewer than 300 from the original 3,000, stood in formation as General Price addressed them. "You have done what we asked," Price said. "You saved humanity. You saved the coalition. You ended a threat that could have consumed all of us." Shaw listened without expression. He knew what was coming. But the war is over now, Price continued, and humanity cannot allow its monsters to walk free among normal citizens. You will be confined again. The facilities have been prepared. You will be treated well, but you will not be released. Shaw nodded. He had expected nothing different. We understand. The soldiers filed back onto the Everett without protest or complaint. They had served their purpose. Now they would wait until they were needed again. Ambassador Cole found Shaw before the ship departed. She had spent months trying to understand these people. She was still not sure she succeeded. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "You could have refused. You could have demanded freedom as payment for your service." Shaw looked at her. For a moment she thought she saw something in his empty eyes. Not emotion exactly, but something. "You think we want freedom?" he asked. "Freedom means nothing to people like us. We do not want things, we do not hope for things." He paused. "But humanity is ours. We might be broken, but we are still human, and humans protect their own. Even though they fear you, even though they lock you away." "Even so," Shaw almost smiled. "We are the monsters that humanity creates, the ones you cannot cure or fix or rehabilitate, the ones that scare you, but we are still yours, and when you need us, we will be there." He walked onto the ship without looking back. Remained on the platform as the Everett's doors closed. She watched the transport lift off and disappear into the sky. Consul found her there an hour later. He carried a data tablet containing files that humanity had as a gesture of goodwill. "The Hollow Division was not unique," said quietly. "According to these records, it was simply the unit you were willing to reveal." Said nothing. She had seen those files. Closed the tablet. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. What else does humanity keep hidden? Looked up at the sky where the Everett had vanished. "Hopefully," she said, "you will never have to find out." The galaxy asked for soldiers. Humanity sent the warriors they feared the most, and in the end, even monsters could be heroes. But the monsters were still monsters, and humanity would keep them hidden, ready, waiting for the next time the galaxy needed to be saved by the things that scared everyone most, including humanity itself.